This is all of LEGO Atlantis Wave 2. I'm including in this video all of the sets from after the Neptune carrier, which I reviewed in part 1, as well as the 2 special edition ones, which are harder to find. With that being said, like and subscribe if you do enjoy, and let's get into the reviews. The first LEGO Atlantis Wave 2 set I will be reviewing is the Deep Sea Striker. The set includes this giant sea scorpion, the green manta ray Atlantis key, actual storm, and a small vehicle for him to fight the giant monster with. The only minifigure in the set is Actual Storm. He is exactly the same as any of his other iterations. He has no new head printing, and even the alternate face is exactly the same, so I'm not going to spend any more time on it. This is the green manta ray Atlantis key, which is probably the most prominent in all of these sets, and I don't know why it's included in this one, because a crab key would be much more appropriate for the giant sea scorpion you get as the main build. This is the vehicle that Axel Storm has to fight the sea scorpion. It includes this arm, which is movable and can hold that Atlantis key right there. It has 2 spear guns to give him some firepower. It has 2 fins and a jet on the back, as well as the handlebars, which can attach his minifigure so he can ride it. The Sea Scorpion, or the Deep Sea Striker, is an impressive build. It has the orange and black color scheme like the other crabs and crustaceans in the Atlantis line, and I think it looks overall really nice. This takes the Technic and standard system design that the Shark failed at in the previous wave and improves on it tenfold. One of my main problems is that these legs aren't movable, but it needs a strong base and it has a lot of other features, so I think it's excusable for something made back in 2010. The face has 6 eyes and some spikes back here, as well as 6 different mandibles which can be adjusted, and you can hold a minifigure inside if you really want to. My only problem with this set is the socket connection of the bionicle joints. These are really old pieces and are fragile at the point where it connects, so I did have to replace some of them, and eventually I want to replace this piece, but LEGO hasn't made a new version of it. They're articulate at 2 spots, one in the arm and one at the wrist, and both sides of the claw can open up, and there's 2 spikes on the larger side. This is mirrored on the other side as well, so it's exactly the same on either side. The last part of this monster is its tail, which can be bent at many different parts, but I like where it's sitting right now for its function. These 2 prongs play into it, as when the gear is pushed forward, this slides down over the head, and if it's lined up, it sits right on this elongated part on the top of the head, and the 2 spikes go between the claws and the head itself. It's a nice function and allows the Sea Scorpion to have an extra threat to its arsenal. The Deep Sea Striker is a great addition to the Atlantis line. While I'd rather have the crab or the actual monster that represents the crystal be at this larger size, the Sea Scorpion is by no means a bad replacement, and it looks great overall. It stands up to this day, and the only problem are the bionicle pieces, which are a product of its time and can be replaced, at least for the most part. Let's move on to the next build. This is the Shadow Snapper, my personal favorite LEGO Atlantis set. I don't exactly know why, because looking at it, it definitely does not look the best and doesn't have the most functions out of all the wave, but for some reason, maybe it's because I got it from my grandparents and getting these sets were a really fun memory when I was like 5 or 6, but it still remains my favorite to this day. Shadow Snapper includes the Shadow Snapper itself, the yellow Turtle Atlantis key, Axel Storm, and a small submarine for Axel to use. This is Axel Storm once again, and as I said in the previous set, he is exactly the same, but this time he doesn't include flippers, so I'm just going to move on from him. This is the yellow Turtle Atlantis key, which actually comes in a lot of sets of this wave, but this is special because we finally have the monster to match it. The Shadow Snapper. This is a vehicle for Axel Storm, and to be honest, it doesn't look the best. It has a bunch of studs that are exposed in different colors, like the green ones right there, and some down here as well, and it feels kind of gappy, especially in this area. Like, I think they could have done it with a cockpit much better, but they instead went for this look, which is unique, but it does have some left to be desired with the appearance of it. It has this shape that falls down into the front with 2 lights, as well as 2 flick-fire missiles using the complete version with all 3 parts instead of just the bulb and the flick-fire missile itself. It has 2 spear guns in the back, as well as this propeller which makes it go. While nostalgia does hold this set in high regard for me, this is the part I don't really care about. It's mainly the Shadow Snapper that has my interest and why it's probably my favorite. So this is a nice side build, but for modern day standards, it's not very good. This is the Shadow Snapper. I don't know what about it. Maybe it's the bionicle pieces used to create this super awesome spiky shell, but something just drew this creature to me. It has lots of posability with ball joints that I had to replace, so now they're nice and new and won't be breaking anytime soon. The arms on both sides can rotate at the joint here and move like this, as well as the claws which can open, and they can hold the crystal as well as a diver. The head rotates on this single joint. It does have its mouth open slightly, but not very much, as the design makes it very restrictive. It's not the biggest deal, as you don't expect a turtle to have the widest mouth, so it's good they still included it. I think the head looks very nice, and the stickers up here make it pop just a little more. On the back, we have the tiny little feet, which move at this point, as well as the joint connecting it to the main body. This is the same on both sides, and as a turtle, it doesn't exactly have to have the largest feet, and they look pretty funny if you're not taking the rest of the animal into account. The tail on the Shadow Snapper can move slightly in different ways, but the angle of each part is fixed, though you can get a lot of different poses and swinging motions by playing around with it and getting to something you like. The body does have the problem of being exposed right here, where they definitely could have put something to cover up at least part of this, but they decided not to. This underbelly also used to have printing, but I took it off while it was not fully complete in my LEGO collection. My one other problem with this set, though I do still love it, is the random colored pieces here. You can see a blue and a yellow piece in there. The red at least matches the rest of the set, but to have those random pieces really detracts from it because it's very visible that you can see that yellow piece, and if you look a little harder, that blue. And it should have pieces like in gray colors or black or green that more so match the set as a whole and hide it better from view. Despite this, Shadow Snapper still remains my favorite. It's just a fun, highly posable build that provides a nice, solid threat to the Atlantis crew. The Undersea Explorer is the mech build of the Atlantis series, including the Undersea Explorer itself, Bobby Buoy, the red shark Atlantis key, and an eel for the mech to fight. Bobby Buoy is once again the same, just he doesn't include flippers this time, so I'm not going to review him any further. If you want to see that, that'll be in the first Atlantis video that I did. This is the red shark Atlantis key, and while it doesn't match the eel build over there, I think this is the appropriate key to have. That's pretty close to the creature, but not exact, as we don't have a different crystal for every different type of animal we have to build. This is the eel included in the set. It has a yellow and black color scheme similar to the shark. It has the fins that are used more so for dragons, as well as some fins back here. The tail is made up of those pieces that were also found on the shark, with some yellow tooth pieces to provide as spikes. It has a lot of posability, and you can change it around and make it look really interesting. Like the pose I have right here makes it look like it's swimming, and it has a sharp point on the end. This middle section can move all around with the 2 back fins and the tail attached to it, while the front is all one piece except for the mouth, which can open up and you can put the crystal inside here. Overall, I think it's a good build, another great animal to add to the Atlantis roster, and it's suitable for this set. Now the Undersea Explorer, and as you can see, it is not in mech form right now. And that's because this is an alternate form where it can go and roll around the sea floor with the wheels that are attached to its legs. If you want to turn into the mech form, you first tilt these feet into position, lower the legs down, and then turn both hands around. The mech's legs have some nice stickering on both sides. The 6 wheels that create the other alternate build's ability to move. It has only 2 joints, being the ankle of the foot as well as the hip bone. There are lights in the middle section as well as 2 controllers, and you can sit a minifigure inside of here. There are more lights, 4 on each side, right here and there, as well as the flick fire missiles, which are not the optimal mode that I like to see them in because they're missing that cylinder 1x1 piece, which helps them feel more complete and doesn't have this gap with this orb and the flick fire missile piece itself. It has 2 arms, the first being a standard grabbing arm, which has these bulbs on it in a different color, which also appear on the eel itself as the eyes. It has some armor here, and this is a pretty simple build, but it does its job. The other side is a giant missile with a spring-loaded missile cannon, which can shoot like this, and now that's gone. And that's really fun to include, and a nice police feature other than just having a second hand. There are tubes connecting the arms to the back of the body, which has 1 giant propeller. There's some nice sticker detailing up here, showing the number and the Atlantis team symbol, as well as 2 smaller propellers on each side, which can be moved up and down and spun individually. The back of the mech is pretty plain with some exposed Technic here. That's not my favorite, but at least in the non-mech mode, the legs are folded back and cover most of it so you don't notice it too often. The Ocean Explorer is a fun addition to the Atlantis line, being the only mech in the original 2 waves, and while mechs are kind of overdone for LEGO, this isn't too bad and at least has a fun transformation feature as well as a neat enemy to go along with it. The Atlantis Exploration HQ is the base of operations for the Atlantis crew, and it includes a small vehicle, Captain Ace Speedman, Dr. Fisher, a Manta Warrior, the yellow turtle Atlantis key, and the Atlantis HQ itself. This is Ace Speedman once again. He doesn't come with any new accessories. He still has the surprise face as his alternate, and everything's the same except he doesn't have a spear gun. This is Dr. Fisher, and once again, just like Ace Speedman, he is exactly the same. He includes nothing original, and all of the faces and pieces come in another set. This is another Manta Warrior with a golden trident. It has the molded Manta Warrior headpiece once again, and these always look really nice, and I'm glad they included another one. We have the yellow turtle Atlantis key once again, and I do not know why they didn't just include a green Manta Ray Atlantis key to go along with the Manta Warrior, but this is the one you get in the set, and that'll be fine because the turtle key in the last series was harder to come across. This is the side build for the Atlantis HQ. It has handlebars for the minifigures to attach to, 2 spears that can be taken off if you want to, and then the wings on the side can be adjusted. The Atlantis HQ looks pretty good except for some exposed Technic here, as well as some exposed tan pins being here, 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 and here. Other than that, it has a couple features which I want to go over. The first being these lights at the top, which can be moved to any different angle you want. If you're facing it to the front, you can always have it angled downwards, looking out at the sea, or you can have it face the other way when you're playing with the interior. It also has these spear guns that can be moved, which I have to hold this down, and you can adjust them if you want to, change the angle, and have them in like a defensive position. On top of that, you also have these flickfire missiles, which are the bad version without this middle cylinder piece, but they can be fired and launched at enemies that try to attack the base. These windows, especially the center one with the guard on top of it, as well as the sides, look really nice, and you can see right into the interior, which is a great perk. So we turn back around here, and we have this platform on the top, which can be used with the smaller vehicle, as it can be placed here to have a resting spot where it can land and refuel. We have a small crane down here, which has a seat to be controlled by, where it can lift up and change the angle of the crane, as well as hold things like the crystal, and it can hook on to the ship parts like the wheel piece right here. On the interior on this side, we have a spinny chair, but mine's really old, so that doesn't work. We have a fish on what I assume is a cutting board, as well as a small printed computer piece, and two what I assume are fire extinguishers. On this side, we have some control panels, we have a coffee mug, a metal detector, and a printed map. In the center, it has this area exposed, which I think they could have definitely put a small 4x4 flat piece over that, but they do have another seat and two controls for the front. Now, if you notice this piece, it seems out of place because it's circular, and that's due to the function, which, as with these propellers, it actually can become its own ship, which starts by you folding these down and then pushing this part in. Once you do that, you can lift the entire ship and put that Technic pin in, and you have your own floating vehicle. The fact that you can turn the base into a submersible vehicle is really cool, and it still packs all the functions that it had earlier, just neatly tucked into its own interior, with 4 propellers being the way it moves around. If you want to, you can also open this and open the front cockpit, but you have access to the interior in many other ways that I don't think it's that necessary. There are some bionicle tube pieces going across, but this main structure isn't too detailed and has just exposed Technic beams. You can see these 3 bulbs right here, which go into the 3 holes at the bottom of the ship to attach it and secure it to the rest of the base. The Atlantis HQ is another great addition to the line. It provides a formidable base, which can also turn into another unique submarine for the Atlantis crew to use. The final LEGO Atlantis Wave 2 set, and also the largest, is the Portal to Atlantis, which includes over 1,000 pieces and has 7 different minifigures, which are an old Aqua Raider skeleton, a Squid Warrior, a Shark Warrior, the Portal Emperor, Professor Sam Rhodes, Lance Spears, and Captain Ace Speedman. As you can see, the set also includes every single Atlantis key made up to this point. The first minifigure in this set is an Aqua Raider skeleton, which holds a green crystal. It's a fun little nod to another LEGO series, and it connects them lore-wise, which maybe eventually I'll make a video connecting all the LEGO series together that I can. We have another Squid Warrior, which is probably the most detailed out of all the warriors except for the new one that comes only in this set. He has this nice piece on the bottom to create the tentacled look with a golden trident as his weapon, like all other Atlantis warriors, and this gold printing on his head. His face, of course, under all this is very creepy, and you can see some of the printing on the torso there. The Shark Warrior minifigure is just like any other, but it's always good to get some of these because the shark mold is really well done for the head, and the printing is nice, as well as the inclusion of more golden tridents. The new minifigure to the set is the Portal Emperor, who apparently is a seahorse, and my brother and I found that somewhere. I have to check if that's actually true, but that's what I believe it to be. He has this cool armor piece, including the helmet and the chest plate, and it makes him look really menacing. The underbody is green with some straps printed all over him, and it has a little Atlantis symbol on the actual armor itself. Once again, he has a golden trident as his weapon. Sam Rhodes is the same as all of her other iterations, with the basic Atlantis diver gear, a spear gun, and some flippers. Lance Spears is still the same other than the accessories. He has 2 yellow lights which are clipped onto the Technic holes in the back of the Atlantis scuba piece that they use for each of the diving minifigures. He also has a camera as an accessory with a clear piece to be the lens itself. Ace Speedman has the standard attire and weapon, as well as this added propeller on the back, which is clipped onto the 2 bottom holes of the exhausts of the divers' tanks, which is a nice use of the part and adds a different build to help the divers get around. The Portal to Atlantis is a huge build, so I'll have to go into each individual section to review them, and then I'll go through the whole build altogether. The first function that you can see plainly is these sharks, which both can come off of their stands and are fully posable, just like you see here. This shark has posability at its tail with each of the fins as well as the entire tail itself. It has flippers on each side, which can be bent and change the orientation that it has, as well as the head, which can be turned up, and the jaws, at least the bottom, can be open, while the top contains 4 menacing teeth to make it look really threatening. It uses this technical to sit in that part back there, and I think it's a great inclusion, allowing these to come off, but also act like statues in the actual castle build. The castle has steps leading up to it, which start with this giant shark mouth. It has some seaweed down here, and if you open it up, the other 2 jaws are pushed out, revealing more of the stairs up to the portal itself. These are really well designed, and the bars right here allow the jaw to be moved up and down, and the other 2 jaws to separate or close depending on which direction you're going to. It also provides as a nice trap, so if you want to walk up your diver here and then have them get stuck, it's a very fun play feature for people to play around with. Both sides aesthetically from the front look exactly the same. They have 2 windows with teeth in them, these big golden gates with gold accessories on top, lots of seaweed, and a small tower at the end with stairs leading up through that tower and then up towards the portal area. Each side is different, with this side including the place where the Aquarator's diver is supposed to be, as well as differences in the interior, which I will show now. This side of the interior is pretty bare, but it does have lots of space for minifigures. It has nothing on this side, but on this side there are a handcuff as well as what I assume to be a whip with the stand connected to the wall. On the upper portion, there is nothing here, but there's space under here that you can play with, as well as some floor space up here. The other side looks similar on the front, but in the bottom, it has a little more to go with. It has some, what I assume are alchemy materials with 2 different bottles made with small cylinder pieces and crystals, as well as a frog in a jar, which can be shook around if you move it. And then on this side right here, you can see a golden trident and a sword which is connected to the wall just like on the other side. It also has stairs leading up into the main area, and the stairs continue up to the portal room. The center also has its own interior, and if you can see here, there is a bed down here, which we assumed is for the Portal Emperor, as well as up here where there is a table with a chalice and a map which also appears in the Atlantis HQ. Both of these sides can be folded back into the build if you want a different look, which does look cool in its own way and is better for transport, but of course when both sides are out, this castle looks much more impressive and menacing. And both of the sides have their own tridents right here, as well as some more gold details to accent the build. Then the portal area itself has all 5 crystals, with 2 here, 2 here, and the final which activates the function. This is definitely the highlight of the build, with the portal being the centerpiece and the main function. It has every crystal in the series, so if you missed out on any of them, this is the set to get them all. The shark crystal is in the middle, of course, as it is the central focus of this build, and when turned, it opens the portal itself. That opening looks really sick, and behind it is a chest which you can grab, which includes a bunch of different crystals. The portal to Atlantis is undoubtedly one of the best sets of the wave. It has a really cohesive color scheme, it looks great with lots of functions and play features, as well as an assortment of minifigures, including a couple exclusive ones. I had pieces break, but not enough to ruin the set. There's just some small cracks on some of the hinge pieces, but other than that, it stood the test of time and is a set worth picking up if you see it on eBay or somewhere else. Overall, LEGO Atlantis Wave 2 is probably one of my favorite LEGO waves of all time. These are some stellar sets. Basically all of them hold up to this day, with only some slight problems due to age and some exposed pieces, but other than that, each one has its own merit, its own unique functions to the series, and includes something that's special to only Atlantis. If you don't have some of these sets, I'd highly recommend looking for good deals on eBay. that's going to do it for my review of LEGO Atlantis Wave 2. We have at least 2 more main Atlantis videos coming, with Wave 3, which is the yellow and red variation of the series, as well as one of those LEGO books where you have a bunch of pieces and can build multiple builds. I also have that one for Atlantis, so we'll be doing a review on all of those. With that being said, like and subscribe if you did enjoy, and see you guys next time.